In the year 2074, climate change has destroyed the planet, which has spread famine and bankrupted governments. Now corporations have risen in power and control almost everything while fighting over the dwindling natural resources. People who work for them live safely in the green zone and those who don't live in the slums of the red zone. In the Spiga Corporation, 2 employees are going through the day when suddenly they see 2 guards dragging around another employee with his head covered. This guy is taken to a mysterious room, where a man is about to hurt him to make him confess something. This all started 3 days ago. Spiga employee Ben and his wife Laura are having breakfast with real bacon, which is uncommon. When they see important news on TV, terrorists have blown up a Spiga lab and caused dozens of deaths. Afterward, Ben takes his self-driving car to work. Security checks every employee's suitcase before letting them in, and today the alarm goes off pretty early. The guards rush to open the suitcase carefully, but it doesn't have malware, just a naughty video. Then Ben and his co-worker Chad make a presentation on Everclear, a software that can record and reveal what a person is thinking and dreaming. The head of security Julian wants to use it as interrogation tech, but it currently has a very low accuracy, so Ben and Chad will have to work harder on it. Meanwhile in the slums, Theo is dragged by 2 thugs to see Terrence, a crime lord who is angry because Theo has been taking business from him. Terrence is ready to cut Theo's finger off but notices that one of his thugs actually got hurt by Theo when he was captured. Curious, Terrence makes Theo fight both his thugs properly, allowing him to show his fighting skills. In just a few minutes, Theo impresses Terrence, who offers him a special deal. Back in the office, Ben uses a hacking device to put the picture of a woman named Elena on the company computer to run facial recognition software. To his shock, the computer shows that Elena is currently working in a very exclusive naughty private club, so he'll need a promotion to reach her. A flashback reveals that Ben and Elena used to live in the slums, but one day Elena disappeared, so Ben has infiltrated the green zone just to find her. In the evening, Laura informs Ben that she's gotten permission from Spiga to have a baby, and he has to pretend to be happy about it when actually he just married Laura because her mother is Elizabeth, the head of Spiga's American branch. The next day, Laura goes to her work at a cosmetic clinic and gets disturbed by their latest client. A rich old lady pays for her boy toy to have his face reconstructed and look like the young version of her late husband. Ben calls Laura to inform her he'll be having some drinks with his coworkers, and the mention of the red zone sends Laura on a panic attack that brings back memories of torture. It gets so bad that she has to self-inflict some relief, which she quickly heals with an advanced spray. In the evening, Ben and his friends go into the red zone for easy access to total debauchery. The bar they visit has a cage fight going on plus plenty of alcohol and dope disguised as inhalers. Chad takes too much and starts feeling sick, so Ben takes him to the bathroom. While Chad throws up, Ben secretly takes a sample of his blood. On their way out, they're confronted by an employee from the rival company Inazagi, but Ben quickly attacks him and the guy faints when his head hits the sink. Then Ben leaves the club and makes it to an old building where he takes a motorcycle to the 18th floor to meet with Theo, who turns out to be Elena's brother and is now getting into cage fighting. Ben shares his discovery about Elena and promises to find her by forcing the promotion. The next day, Ben acquires an anti-riot tech device known as the Whistler, which creates sound waves that instigate nausea. Then he goes to see Chad and while discussing work, he uses the Whistler under the table, sending Chad straight to the bathroom. Now Ben can use the blood sample to gain access to some important files on Chad's computer, which he then downloads onto a portable drive. When Chad comes back too soon, Ben uses the Whistler again and he feels the pain too, but he puts up with it until he's done. At the end of the day, workers are scanned before going home, and Chad triggers the alarm because Ben put the portable drive in his pocket. Chad gets fired and taken to Julian for interrogation, revealing the scene from the beginning. Elizabeth announces in the company that Chad's spot is open, so Ben will have to deal with the competition. Suddenly a flashback goes back 12 years ago. As a kid, Ben used his real name Aaron, and he had to watch his father self-delete. He was a smart kid though, so he created special goggles that let him see while pretending to be blind until a man called Reed discovered his lie. Ben immediately ran away and was saved by Elena, who was very impressed by his goggles. It turned out they could copy other people's eyes and use that scan to access machines for extra food. Since then they became inseparable and Ben fell in love with Elena, until one day she got sponsored and left after gifting Ben her ring. Sometime later, Ben was approached by Reed again, who offered him to make money together with his invention. Back to the present, Ben uses his hacking device to watch Chad's interrogation, but he has to turn it off when guards come to conduct a security check. Chad continues to be put through unbearable pain as Julian asks why he went to the red zone, so Chad explains it had been Ben's idea. In the meantime, Ben meets with his rival Roger and convinces him to say it had been Chad's idea to go to that bar so they could stay clean for the potential promotion. When Julian discreetly asks Ben some questions, Ben sticks to his lies and hides his hacking device under the table so security won't find it when he comes out. Unfortunately, when he returns later to retrieve it, the device is gone. Soon Ben is called to Julian's office because he's learned that Ben took the Whistler from their security department. Ben pretends he took it under Chad's orders, so Julian goes to question Chad about it. However, he's shocked to discover Chad's memories have been completely wiped under orders from Elizabeth, who wants the case closed before the shareholders get too anxious. In the evening, Chad is thrown into the red zone without knowing his own name. It's also revealed that Roger took Ben's device and now he tries to use it on his own computer, but it triggers a self-destruct sequence and he has to turn it off. In the red zone, Terrence and his men come to see Theo to fix the wounds he got during his last cage fight. Theo's boyfriend Anthony thinks it's too soon for another fight, but Theo accepts as soon as he hears a scout will watch him to potentially send him to fight in the green zone, hoping it'll get him close to Elena. Before the match, Theo approaches his opponent and gets friendly with him, to the point the guy gives him his steak. Later during the fight, Theo manages to overpower his opponent regardless of the size, but the guy gets an upper from an audience member to get going. Theo almost loses the match, but since his opponent is playing dirty, he does the same and takes out the steak bone to hurt his face, then he beats the man up to win. Afterward, Terrence grabs a trophy to beat the loser to death before announcing Theo as his new star. Meanwhile, Ben gets a visit from Reed, who is also working in Spiga under a fake name. Reed informs him that an escort at an executive club was shot down after trying to escape, but he doesn't know if it was Elena. Another flashback shows that 6 years ago, Ben saw Elena again while she was working at the family's diner in between classes, although Ben thought the scholarship program was suspicious. After Ben gave her the ring back, Elena went to school, where she had to inject a serum into her body and watch ads before the lesson started on a screen at great speed. Ben was spying through the window and saw how this overwhelming process caused Elena to have a seizure, so he broke in through the window and helped Elena calm down before taking her away. They escaped to a roof, where they screamed out their frustrations and kissed. In the meantime, Laura goes home to discover the police are arresting her maid because she stole real bacon. However, Laura pretends she gifted it to her and forgot the authorization, so she gives the bacon to the cops to get them off her back. Afterward, the maid explains she did it to secure a doctor for a sick child living in her building, so Laura volunteers to see the child instead. Moments later, the guards call Laura over because the rumor of a friendly doctor spread and now lots of poor people are gathering at the gate. Laura accepts to see them, but the crowd gets so desperate and pushy that the guards use brutal anti-riot methods to keep them back. Something even flies over the fence and hits Laura on the head, and the maid ends up getting fired. At Inazagi, children are being fed propaganda on how to tell the cops about anything weird they may see at home. Vice President Diana is pregnant and doesn't want her future baby to end up like this, so later when she goes to Spiga for a negotiation meeting with Elizabeth, Diana secretly lets her know she wants to switch companies. While getting ready for the meeting, Elizabeth asks her team for ideas on how to bring Diana over, so Ben quickly comes up with a plan. They should fake Diana's death, and use the dead escort to provide a body to Inazagi. After the meeting, Elizabeth meets with Diana in the bathroom and hides their presence with a special screen. Diana explains Inazagi is developing a new line of seeds that can grow crops in the desert but also shows a tech virus on her arm that the company uses to keep track of her. If she tries to escape, the device will poison her, so they'll have to work around it. Moments later, some doctors bring over the body of the dead escort, but they've already given her Diana's face so Ben can't tell if she was Elena or not. During the final negotiation meeting, Elizabeth brings a poison needle hidden in her nail and scratches Diana's hand with it. The Inazagi executive brings a huge man who will be overfed while his mind is connected to theirs, but in the process, Diana starts feeling sick. Ben rushes in with a defibrillator, so the executive has no choice but to disarm the company's tech virus to avoid accidental triggering. As part of the plan, the defibrillator doesn't work, so Ben pretends to take her to the ambulance. In the elevator, a fake screen goes off to reveal Julian with the escort's body, and Ben transfers the tech virus from Diana to the escort before putting up the screen again. While Julian revives Diana, the elevator reaches the ground floor and Ben tells the executive that Diana didn't make it, which the virus confirms on the escort's arm. After it's all over, Ben gets to inspect the escort's personal effects and is devastated to find Laura's ring. Later he goes to see Theo to give him the bad news, but when Theo grabs the ring, his DNA activates a hidden video from Elena. It turns out she gave the ring to her coworker so it could reach Theo. Meanwhile, Roger goes to the red zone to see hacker Ramona to ask her to access Ben's device. As payment, Ramona makes Roger chase after a rat in the trash and eat it. Desperate for that promotion, Roger eats the rat and ends up puking, but it's enough for Ramona, who gives him a hacking key encoded on a leaf so scanners won't detect it. At that moment, Roger notices the security cameras and furiously tries to attack Ramona, but she easily makes him fall and kicks him out. Later in the office, Roger successfully hacks into the device to find Ben's information on Elena. He meets with his very powerful father George to ask him for Elena's file, so George asks for something in return. Roger must convince his brother to leave the family estate and go to a clinic, but Roger says no. Another flashback then reveals that Elena lost her scholarship, but Spiga employee Rebecca offered her a job as an escort. Elena's dad Gustavo was offended by the offer and pulled out a gun, causing Rebecca's bodyguard to pull one as well. At that moment Ben arrived and calmed everyone down, so Rebecca left and Elena freaked out because the family couldn't pay rent anymore. Desperate to help, Ben teamed up with Theo to pull off a scam. Theo brought dollars to an exchange kiosk while Ben hacked their computer to get a better rate. After Theo got the euros, the guards got suspicious, so Ben hacked all the other rates too to make people go crazy and Theo could escape unnoticed. Then Ben brought the money to Elena, who had some big news. She actually got the scholarship after the winner was caught cheating with a neural implant. However, she didn't want to leave Ben, so she'd turn it down. At that moment, a man on a bike drove by to shoot at them through the diner window. The couple dropped to the ground just in time, but the bike threw a bomb inside and started a fire, which burned down the money. The fireman refused to put the fire out because Gustavo hadn't paid rent, and Gustavo blamed this on Ben, thinking he pissed off some important people with his scam. A few days later, the poor man was sent to prison because of his debts. When Elena visited, she learned he was sick with pneumonia. Wanting to get him out soon, Elena had no choice but to accept the job from Rebecca, who made her sign a contract and promised to release Gustavo plus taking care of all his debt. At that moment Ben arrived and tried to stop her, but Elena asked him to forget about her. After Elena left, Rebecca taunted Ben, making him realize she was behind the fire. Ben tried to attack her, but her bodyguard tased him down. Later at a bar, Ben came across Reed, who months ago left the red zone and got a job as Spiga under a fake profile. Ben promised to keep his secret, but in exchange he asked to be sent to the green zone too. In Reed's secret lab, they proceed to get everything ready for Ben's new life. Back to the present, Laura starts designing their future baby, and Ben tries to make them look nothing like him. He hates this idea so much that he later asks Reed to secretly get him some birth control. At Spiga, Elizabeth meets with Diana, who has acquired a new face as part of the deal. Diana then shares important intel. There's a genius called Sanjay who's found a way to make crops salt tolerant and therefore able to grow with seawater, which covers most of the planet. However, Diana doesn't know where the man is. Meanwhile, Roger tries to access Elena's file but Reed blocks him, explaining it's classified. Later, Reed meets with Ben to give him the birth control medicine and tell him about Roger's search. Ben tells Reed to send Roger the file anyway because it's been so redacted that it reveals nothing. When Roger opens it on his phone, it also downloads a tracking device. Roger has no choice but to accept his father's offer and goes to see his brother, who years ago received a neural implant that severely damaged the emotional center of his brain. He appeals to their mutual hatred of their father, and the brother agrees to get treatment if it means Roger will get the promotion and send George to the red zone. Later, George arranges things for Roger, which sends Ben an alarm on the tracker. Ben follows Roger to an exclusive hotel and he's shocked to see Elena surrounded by Spiga bodyguards. She takes the elevator to meet with Roger, but she introduces herself as Anastasia and gives him a fake story about her past. While Ben sneaks into the room under theirs to use a device to spy on them, Roger asks Elena for her real story, but she only mentions the diner. Roger asks about Ben but Elena doesn't recognize the name, which causes Roger to hurt her with a corkscrew to make her talk. Luckily, Ben hacks the hotel's air purification system, setting off alarms and prompting an evacuation. Elena is taken away by her bodyguards, so Ben can't follow her. Afterward, Ben rushes back to the office and arrives late for his presentation on Everclear, but he gets a deal by promising it'll be running by the end of the month. Back to Roger, he remembers Elena's story about the diner and goes to the red zone, where she pays Elena's old teacher to get more information about her, like her father's number. While his location is sent to Ben's tracker, Roger meets with Gustavo under the excuse of informing him that Elena's dead. Taking advantage of Gustavo's sadness and anger, Roger shows him a photo of Ben, whom Gustavo immediately identifies as the person who ruined Elena's life. Then Roger offers Gustavo a chance for revenge. In the meantime, Laura is wandering around the red zone, where she's suddenly attacked by some thug in a hoodie. She tries to defend herself but she's overpowered, only for the background to go away and reveal it's actually a simulation for Laura's post-trauma therapy. She wants to try again but her therapist advises her against it, causing Laura to storm out in fury. Moments later, Ben tracks Roger down to find him in the ruins of Gustavo's diner. Roger knows everything now, so Ben promises that he'll convince Elizabeth to give Roger the promotion in exchange for his silence. At first Roger seems to agree, but when they're shaking on it, Ben discovers that Roger recorded everything. Roger attacks Ben and a fight ensues, but after just a few hits, Ben strangles Roger to death. Afterward, Ben calls Theo to help him get rid of the body. They put Roger into his self-driving car, which Ben hacks the GPS history and programs the car to travel to the dust storms. After they send the vehicle away, Ben goes home and burns his clothes in the incinerator before joining Laura in bed. Sometime later, Ben is giving a presentation at work when suddenly they bring over a body that starts moving inside the bag. Luckily, it's just a nightmare, but it's causing stress problems to his body. After breakfast, Laura decides she should take a trip to the red zone to deal with her trauma, which triggers another flashback. 8 years ago, Laura and her friends went to a bar in the red zone and Laura danced with a guy named Bradley. Wanting privacy, they left the club through the back door. However, Bradley knocked Laura out and took her to the apartment he shared with his family, where he called Elizabeth to ask for ransom money. Security Chief Connor wanted to pay the ransom using the containment recovery protocol, which never went well for the victim because it was about protecting the company's intel, so Elizabeth refused to pay. An argument ensued and Elizabeth defied Connor's power, sending Julian to find her daughter instead. Meanwhile, Bradley and his family cut off Laura's ear and sent the video to Elizabeth while demanding more money and threatening to send Laura to Inazagi. This time Elizabeth agreed to pay, causing Connor to initiate the protocol. Out on the streets, Julian threatened a corrupt cop until he told him what building Bradley was in. Then he sent out a drone and managed to pick a conversation between Bradley and a friend, who warned them that Spigo would kill them all for this. The only thing that would stop the company would be killing Laura before they arrived. While the family argued over what to do, Laura managed to drop her chair and grab the scalpel, which she could use to cut her bonds. When Bradley's sister entered the room, Laura attacked, brutally stabbing her in the throat. Then Bradley came in too, but before he could shoot Laura, Julian arrived and shot him first. Afterward, Julian took Laura away, and on their way out, Laura saw the little kid crying over the bodies of the other relatives. Later, when Laura reunited with her mother, she asked what really happened to her dead father, suspecting it had to do with the containment recovery protocol. Elizabeth denied everything, but now Laura hated her for it. Back in the present, Laura successfully goes into the red zone to visit her old maid, explaining she's here to see the sick girl. The kid got her surgery done by a local phony and the wound is infected, so Laura heals it with a special spray. Then she tries to lead but discovers more people want her to cure them, so she cancels her plans with Ben to help. Moments later, she's interrupted by Yoran, a kingpin who lost his legs during the war. His thugs kidnap Laura and take her to Yoran's hideout, where he makes her a surprising offer to set up her own clinic in his space to treat his people. At first Laura turns him down and has a panic attack, but after some more self-inflection, Laura accepts Yoran's offer because she enjoys helping people in need more than doing cosmetic surgery for rich ladies. Meanwhile, Ben modifies Roger's watch and gives it to Theo, who takes it to a bar. He tries to pay his drink with it while showing off it's a Spiga model, which is all an act to get the attention of two Inazagi employees. They immediately buy the watch from him, which will help Ben with the next step of his plan. The next day, two scavengers are wandering around the desert when they suddenly see a car coming, so they put up a trap to stop it. Inside, they find Roger's body. At the office, Ben's putting the final touches on Everclear and asks Reed to help him test it, which allows Reed to see what happened to Roger. Moments later, Roger's watch goes back online at an Inazagi building, making Elizabeth and Julian believe he's defected. They assume Inazagi must know about their plans now, so they must act fast. Julian and his team track down Inazagi executive Philip and kidnap him so they can use Everclear on him. Ben hooks everything up and starts interrogating him, learning that the genius Sanjay is being kept at an Inazagi facility in a town called White Horse. Next, Ben tries to get Philip to help him and blackmails him by showing him his most shameful memory, Philip killing his own kid so Inazagi wouldn't use him for their experiments. Philip still refuses to cooperate, so Ben deletes everything that happened today from his memory. Meanwhile, a guard finds the hacking device in Roger's office and brings it to Julian, who goes to see George to ask him about it. George sees the files about Elena and tells Julian about the escort, so Julian visits her next. When Julian is about to get information out of her, Ben interrupts them, saying he has the information they need. Ben shares a look with Elena but has to keep up his cover and leaves without talking to her. Soon Philip is covered with alcohol and dropped near the tent of his AA group, so he'll think he lost his memories because of his drinking. Afterward, Julian goes back to Elena. Now she's seen Ben, she knows she must lie and tells Julian that Roger asked about Elizabeth, not Ben. Julian dismisses her and goes home, only to receive a picture on his phone of Roger's body. Julian believes Roger's murder was an inside job, and the next day, he asks Elizabeth for permission to use Everclear to question Roger's department. In the red zone, Terrence meets with an Inazagi executive, who is sponsoring a fighter that abuses body modifications. Terrence arranges a fight, but Theo doesn't think he can beat such a powerful opponent. Terrence offers the same enhancements to him, and when the fight starts, Theo goes crazy with violence, damaging his rival to the point he must be dragged away from the cage. Afterward, Terrence brings a working lady to calm Theo down with some naughty times against Theo's will. Later, Ben discovers that he no longer has access to his own Everclear program, so he contacts Reed to access Roger's file. They discover Roger's body has been found and Ben can guess Everclear will be used for interrogation, so he starts building a new Everclear in Reed's secret lab and asks him to erase all his memories of his life as Aaron. After making a copy of the neural imprint on a portable drive, Reed starts the procedure, which puts Ben through unbearable pain and knocks him out. When Ben wakes up, he finds himself in his car outside his house, and he doesn't remember what happened. He ignores his headache and reunites with Laura, who notices Ben is more affectionate than usual. Then Ben decides to buy some jewelry for her, unconsciously choosing a ring like Elena's. Later at the office, Julian interrogates Ben using Everclear. However, the memory wipe works and Ben is genuinely sad to hear Roger is dead. Ben is immediately released and Reed checks on him, noticing he's much happier without his obsession with Elena. Not wanting to ruin that, Reed decides not to give him back his memories. Sometime later, Ben approaches Julian because he wants to help him find the guy who killed his friend. Ben hacks into the car's GPS and discovers it was altered, giving Julian the real location of the crime. They go to the burned-down restaurant and find Roger's collar pin, but there are no security cameras. Luckily they discover a weather monitoring system and Ben gets all kinds of information on wind and sound patterns, which will allow him to build a 3D recreation of the crime. Meanwhile, Reed receives a message Ben recorded before his memory wipe. The video is a failsafe warning Reed that if he doesn't reinstall the memories in 72 hours, Reed's identity will be revealed to Spiga. A desperate Reed tries to hack Ben's failsafe to stop it, only to get another warning in 36 hours instead. In the meantime, Theo has become addicted to the enhancements. He wants his naughty times to be rougher, which scares Anthony and causes him to defend himself. Theo gets furious and violent, so Anthony decides to leave their home. Feeling lonely, Theo gets busy with the working lady from the other night instead. In the evening, he takes the rage powder twice to fight again. The match starts with the opponent winning, but as soon as the powder kicks in, Theo beats him up with such violence that he ends up killing him. Later when he's calmed down, Theo realizes what he's done and admits he's got a problem. Back to Ben, he goes home to get frisky with Laura without using birth control. Afterward, Laura tells him about her new clinic, and Ben gives her his support before gifting her the ring. Moments later, his computer has finished the 3D rendering of the crime scene and Ben is shocked to see an image of himself killing Roger. Not knowing what to think, he runs facial recognition on his accomplice, revealing its famous cage fighter Theo. At an Inazagi facility, Sarjay is working on his saltwater presentation when suddenly the power starts failing and explosions can be heard outside. A bunch of Spiga soldiers suddenly burst in, kill Sarjay's assistant and disable Inazagi's tech virus. However, Sarjay doesn't care if they kidnap him as long as they take all his research as well. He just wants to save the world with any company that will fund him. The group gets ready to go but the lab is in the middle of a snowy mountain, and when a helicopter comes by, unfortunately the storm causes it to crash. To make matters worse, Inazagi is sending their vehicles to the area. The Spiga soldiers open fire and try to defend their position, but they don't have much time left. Elizabeth doesn't want to get in trouble with shareholders and sends drones to bomb the area, destroying everything. The next day, Theo notices someone is following him and almost attacks, only to see Ben. Theo takes him to his apartment to show him pictures of Elena, but nothing works until Ben sees Elena's ring, noticing it matches the one he got for Laura. In one of the pictures he also sees Reed and recognizes him as a coworker, so he starts to accept something is going on. Theo and Ben leave to find Reed, and on their way out, they come across Chad, who is in terrible shape. When Chad sees Ben, it triggers some of his memories and remembers Ben ruined his life, so he tries to attack. Theo easily knocks Chad down and then the duo leaves, using the history of Ben's GPS to find Reed's secret lab. Speaking of Reed, he manages to hack Ben's failsafe, but it requires a DNA sample to cancel it. At that moment Ben and Theo arrive, and Ben opens the door using muscle memory on the lock. Reed explains everything to them and gets Ben to use his finger to cancel the failsafe before giving him the portable drive. Then Theo and Reed start arguing over whether Ben should get his memories back, so Ben leaves to think about it in peace. Afterward, Theo attends the funeral of the cage fighter he killed. The dead guy's sister recognizes Theo and forgives him, causing him to have a breakdown. Determined to leave this life behind, Theo goes to his apartment to pack, but Terrence is waiting for him, wondering why Theo has been skipping his workouts before informing him he's planned a fight in the green zone. Meanwhile, in the streets of the red zone, Chad has become obsessed with Ben and kills anyone that looks like him. In the evening, Ben arrives home to find Laura drinking a lot because she had to see lots of horrible things while taking care of her new patients. They end up getting busy, and after Laura falls asleep, Ben injects back his old memories. The next day, Ben shares a modified version of his 3D rendering with Julian, making it look like it was Chad who killed Roger and hiding Theo's face. Meanwhile, Elizabeth visits Laura at the clinic, expressing her concerns over her daughter spending time in a dangerous area. An argument ensues during which Elizabeth reveals that Laura's father wasn't kidnapped. He actually tried to defect and Elizabeth had him killed. Before leaving, Elizabeth tells Laura to shut down the clinic or she will. Afterward, Elizabeth meets with Ben to inform him the promotion is his. A delighted Ben goes home while trying to call Laura, but she doesn't pick up the phone. Suddenly a mysterious shadow attacks Ben, knocking him out. At Reed's house, his daughter is playing hide and seek with her friends and hides under her parents' bed, where she accidentally touches a button that detects her DNA and opens a hidden compartment, revealing some mysterious tech. When Ben wakes up, he discovers he's being held captive by an Inazagi commando team led by Tobias, who shoots Ben in the leg to make him talk. At that moment Laura comes back and is immediately captured as well, so Tobias threatens to kill her. Laura begs Ben to talk, but Ben notices she's missing her ring and senses something is weird. Then Tobias shoots Laura, but then reality starts shifting and it's revealed Ben was inside a simulation back at Spiga. It was a test from Elizabeth to make sure he's loyal to the company and she admits she was tested too before she got her own promotion. The next day, Ben appears at Philip's AA meeting and uses a story he got from Philip's brain to taunt him. After the meeting, Philip confronts Ben, who offers him a deal. He'll give him the Everclear program in exchange for safe passage for 2 people and a body to make Spiga think he's dead. Later, Ben uses his new promotion to visit the exclusive club. After an extensive interview, he attends a party where he finally finds Elena. They go to a private room and Elena reveals she isn't happy to see him. They're totally different people now, so she doesn't think they can just get together again and escape into a fairy tale ending. Ben accepts to leave for now but promises to try again. Afterward, Ben goes home and gets a surprise visit from Reed, who just wants to say goodbye. His daughter took the tech she found to school and her teacher confiscated it, so it's only a matter of time before the authorities investigate. After Reed leaves, Ben gets worried and calls Philip to ask him to speed up the extraction. In the red zone, Julian and his soldiers find Chad and get ready to arrest him. However, Chad mistakes one of the soldiers for Ben and tries to attack him, causing the soldiers to open fire and kill him. At the clinic, Laura puts a special dye on her supplies because she's noticed someone is stealing from them. Then she uses a UV light to check everyone's hands and discovers the thief is the patient with the artificial heart. She locks the guy in a closet before asking Yoron for help, but Yoron expects Laura to take care of this matter on her own and tells her to never show weakness in the red zone. Determined to protect her clinic, Laura makes one of Yoron's thugs chop the thief's hand off, which also serves as a warning to any others who might try to steal from her. Later, Laura visits Elizabeth to tell her that she'll shut down her clinic over her dead body, which leaves Elizabeth very impressed. Meanwhile, Terrence takes Theo to a luxurious mansion in the green zone for his next fight, which will be in a pool. This time Theo turns down the rage powder and jumps into the water, where his enhanced opponent easily starts beating him up. Overwhelmed with guilt over the murder, Theo lets this happen and barely defends himself. After a very hard kick, Theo floats around waiting for the end, but an enraged Terrence pulls him out and takes him back to their club. There he reveals he's kidnapped Anthony, so in order to save him, Theo tells Terrence he can get him in contact with a powerful executive in Spiga, meaning Ben. In the exclusive club, Elena meets with one of the maids, who has been working with her to get revenge on Spiga for what they do to women. The maid knows Ben is related to Elizabeth and proposes they should use him for their plan. Sometime later, Philip waits for Ben to do the extraction for him and Elena, but to his surprise, Ben asks him to take Reed and his daughter instead. He pays Reed with a copy of Everclear and says goodbye to Reed with a warm hug. Father and daughter are hidden inside a truck and given masks before they're covered with seeds. That way the guards at the gate will think it's a supply vehicle. Afterward, Ben visits Elena and apologizes for giving up their chance to escape, but now that he's got his promotion, he'll have access to even more tech and secrets that he can trade for safe passage. Elena is much friendlier, assuring Ben he did the right thing. Then they kiss and spend the night getting frisky. The next day, Julian buries Chad while Ben and Laura move to Chad's old house. While Ben goes to work at his new fancy office, Laura gets confirmation that she's pregnant. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.